This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by ICOM. Heard it, worked it, logged it. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about ICOM radios.
It's Ham Radio.
Hey everyone, good evening. It's time for Ham Talk Live, episode number 320, Field Day 2023, recorded on Monday, June 19th, 2023. I am your host, Neil Rapp. Call sign is WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight we're joined by Paul Bourque, N1SFE. And last time here on the show, we were live from Hamvention in Dayton. Hope you enjoyed that. I was totally exhausted after that. I have never had, Hamvention's always busy for me. I have never had a busier Hamvention than this year. But it was great to see everybody and do all that stuff. But wow, it took a while to recover there. But hope you had a good one. And if you missed out, please think about going in the future. It was great. I had a record attendance, since, they moved. So, things are always, fun at Dayton. So if you missed that show here on Ham Talk Live, you can listen anytime at hamtalklive.com or on your favorite podcast app, or of course, we're also on YouTube. And after I rested up from that and almost had everything put away, we turned around and left for vacation. So I've been gone for a while, but I got to go down to Florida for a while and went monorail mobile for the first time. I didn't take the satellite antenna because I was trying to use this trip as a makeup to my wife because, well, at Hamcation a couple of years ago, I got food poisoning on day 2. And on day 3, we were supposed to go to Epcot. So, because of that, I kind of got sick and couldn't go to Epcot. So, this was the makeup trip. So, I didn't dare take the satellite antenna with me, but I did take the HT with me. Did take a couple of hours to go ride the monorail, and while I did, I went monorail mobile, and I figured out a few things. To hit the digipeater, it does matter which side of the monorail you're on, it does kind of shield the RF. So I did the old trick I used to do back in junior high and high school. Put the rubber duck up near, right along the window, right along the metal seam there, of the vehicle. And, that usually helps, but I did find out it does matter, which side, of the monorail you're sitting on. So I was able to track on APRS, sent out a couple of messages, didn't really get any contacts unless, that one gets confirmed by APRS, but, did give it a shout out on a couple of repeaters and, so got to enjoy some time monorail mobile down there, and also got to see Andy KK4LWR and had dinner with him and his wife Christy, and even went and shot a video which will be coming out here soon. Shot a short video from the Skyliner down there. So that was kind of fun. I may have to go Skyliner mobile. I didn't do that. So maybe next time we'll do that. But anyway, tonight we're talking about Field Day because, now that's next on the list that's coming up this weekend. So we usually have Paul Bourque in 1SFE here to talk about Field Day and take some questions. And so we're going to talk about Field Day today, right after this word from Tower Electronics, right here on Ham Talk Live.
Thanks for choosing Tower Electronics. How may we help you today? We have PL259s, we have in connectors, we have SMA adapters, we have BNC adapters. What can I show you today?
Where's the tower?
Well, we don't actually have a tower with us, but we have all kinds of things you can use with a tower. We have power poles, antennas, soldering irons, and meters.
Where's the tower?
Ma'am, that's the name of our company. We can't haul towers to all the Hamfests across the country that we visit, but we have almost every connector and adapter you would need to connect your antenna that's on your tower.
I don't think there's a tower back there. I really don't.
Tower Electronics. Visit us at a Hamfest near you or call 920-435-2973 or see our whole catalog at pl-259.com. Sorry, one thing we don't have is a tower.
And coming up on the Tower Electronics Hamfest schedule, July 8th, they'll be in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and then July 29th in Winchester, Indiana. But you can visit them anytime at pl-259.com.
At Ham Talk Live, we have $1 million request guarantee. You give us $1 million, and we'll do a show about whatever ham topic you request. Guaranteed. Ham Talk Live.
And welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Tonight, Paul Bourque in 1SFE joins us on the Orlando Amateur Radio Club and Hamcation Zoom line. Paul is the ARRL Contest Program Manager. He's just finished up his 4th year in that role, and he's been licensed since 1994 and came out of some broadcasting experience and started the station at the University of Hartford, where the general manager pushed him to get his ham radio license, and he is a townie. He's in Newington and grew up in Newington and likes giving back to the hobby. And we always talk to him this time of year to talk about Field Day, which is what we're doing tonight. So, Paul, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me on. And it's good to be here as always.
Yeah, somehow we messed up last year, so my apologies for not having Paul on last year. But there haven't been a whole lot of changes, but there are some changes this year, and we're going to talk about those here in just a little bit. But first, for the newbies out there that may not be familiar with Field Day, just talk a little bit about when Field Day is and what it is.
Okay, well, Field Day is always held the 4th full weekend of June. And what Field Day is Field Day is a lot of things, but it's really an on-air operating event which really showcases a lot of clubs and groups get together, and they operate in outside in parks and public locations, and they set up temporary stations for Field Day and operate almost as it's a practice for emergencies and informal contest. It could be a picnic. Sometimes it's a club picnic, but it really is a showcase for amateur radio to the public, and it showcases our emergency readiness to set up stations and to support emergencies, and really an opportunity to get on the air and have fun, and also to inform the general public what amateur radio is and what it is exactly that we do.
Now, to add to the fun, there are some point values that are assessed to different things and to encourage different things to happen during Field Day, and we won't get into that whole is it a contest? Is it not a contest argument? Because it's not a contest, but people say if you put points to it, it is. So.
It really is what you make of it. And I get asked that question a lot. It's like, well, if it's a contest, why are there points? So, well, it gives you a way to judge what you did last year versus, did we do better? Did we do worse? And some groups do consider it as a contest, and they want to say, hey, there's a crosstown rival club, and they want to do better than them. And that's maybe there's a crosstown rivalry, and it is really what you make it of it. So yes, there are points values assessed, but it kind of really is a way to judge how you've done over previous years.
Well, the points are there, and like I said, I'm not going to dive into the controversy here. I've got my opinion, but but yeah, everybody's got their opinion on it. But it's a time that you can kind of judge, like you said, how well you're doing compared to other years. And, did this work better? Did that work better? It's a way to kind of tell that a little bit. So for those people who have never been to Field Day, what should they expect just going to, Ham Radio Field Day?
Well, I mean, you can, a lot of groups, there's public displays of, there'll be a little public information booth. They'll give you a little bit of information about what amateur radio is. A lot of groups will give you an opportunity to even get on the air and operate, even as an unlicensed, say you were an unlicensed ham or just, you brought your friend with you. They'll be able to demonstrate what amateur radio is and maybe even let you get on the air and enjoy some contacts, and it's a good way to really network with your local clubs and your groups. And it's some places, some clubs have food. There's a cookout, and again, a lot of times they're in a park. There's actually a group near me that actually gets together at a farm, and they have quite the spread set up. They have a snack bar and everything. But yeah, they have quite a bunch of different stations set up, and it's really kind of interesting.
Well, we encourage everybody to get out and check out Field Day, because it is a great opportunity to just get on the air and meet up with some people and get some tips and tricks from other people, and kind of find out what this HF thing is all about, and as well as VHF and UHF. But there's a lot of HF ability there, and you may not have a license for that.
Yeah, and then again, there are stations set up. So some of the bigger stations will have what's called a get on the air station, or what we call a GOTA station, which its main purpose is to provide either relatively inactive hams, or maybe a chance for them to get on the air, or even someone who might have a technician class license to get on the air on HF and really see like what 20 or 40 meters phone is like, so that they'll allow those people to get on the air and experience parts of amateur radio that they normally wouldn't. So it allows them to try something new. Well,
now that we know what Field Day is, and there are the point systems and rules.
Right. I just want to add before we get into that, Neil, that if you're new to amateur radio, check out our website, arrl.org/field-day. There's a bunch of great information on there, and lots of frequently asked questions lists, and all sorts of. It's a treasure trove of information. So if you're new to Field Day, absolutely, I encourage you to check out the website.
Yep, absolutely, and we have that link already in the description of this episode. So if you need that link, it's there at the end of the description. But since we've got the rules and everything, which you will find on the website and all that kind of thing. We don't get points for working the same station 20 times in the same 24 or 48 hours that you're out there. So let's talk a little bit about the rules, specifically the changes for this year, because You know, the rules have been pretty consistent over the years. But sometimes, you know, things like the get on the air station, may get a few tweaks and that kind of thing. So the first one I see is that there's no limit to the number of contacts made by the go to station. They're all worth 5 points regardless of mode. So talk about that one.
Right. So as I mentioned before, class A and F stations have what's called a get on the air station, which allows, relatively inactive licensees or even non-licensed guests to operate. And so there used to be a cap to the number of QSOs you can make from the go-to station. Well, they've changed that where there is no cap for those QSOs. So you can make as many QSOs or contacts from the go-to station as you can with no limit, and 5 points for each contact regardless of mode. So that's, by mode we mean either Morse code, CW, phone, or a digital mode. Any of the digital modes will count as digital. So just there are 5 points for each contact from the go-to station. And there's also, we've simplified the way the scoring is too. So I think it's going to make it a lot simpler for groups to be able to figure out how to calculate out how many points you're going to get from their go-to station. It really made it. They've really kind of streamlined the process. So I'm hoping that's going to a lot of entrants are going to find it a lot easier to submit their entry without having to figure out all this funny math.
Yeah. Okay. So, the go-to station is there. Make use of it for your newbies and your inactive hams. Just get them on the air. I remember, I used it for a Boy Scout merit badge. As soon as, the event started, we lined them up at the go-to station and I ran them through and got them a contact toward their merit badge. And that was the first 2 or 3 hours of the go-to station. So it's a great opportunity to get people on the air that may not have been on for a while. So again, no limit now. All right. The next one. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was just going to kind of emphasize what you were saying there about the no limit, and that we really made it, the go to scoring a lot simpler.
All right. So the next one, we've already been talking about the wording on this one. So this is the exact wording here, and we'll talk about what this means. You may need your dictionary for this. Each contact must include contemporaneous direct initiation by both operators making a contact. Initiation of a contact may be either local or remote control. Fully automated contacts are prohibited. And now in English that says?
So there's a lot in there. So what that means is, when you go to make a contact, and especially in a lot of digital modes or even with CW keyers or whatever, there has to be a human operator starting that contact. And this really, I think this really speaks a lot to FT8 and those modes. So somebody actually has to start the sequence of calling CQ by starting the computer calling CQ, and then somebody has to be there to answer it. So in other words, what it really is saying is we don't want to have fully automated contacts. So there needs to be an operator initiating the CQ sequence and an operator answering it on the other side. So it can't just be two computers set up to do this all automated with no user intervention. You go away and have a sandwich and you've made 20 contacts. In other words, you have to be at the station to actually, manually initiate or respond to the contact. Does that make sense?
Yeah. With digital, it's easy to, some people will do that. They'll set it up and it will automatically go out there and make contacts and just keep track of them. And that's not what we want here.
The second part of that, where it says fully automated contacts are prohibited, that speaks to that. So what we don't want to see is, and there are ways we can do that with the digital modes, is you can set up scripts and there's all sorts of like WSJT is open source, so there's a lot of other software based on that can do that. Well, that's not allowed. So in other words, somebody has to actually be there. So again, you can't just set the station up and walk away from it, let it make contacts for you. That's not allowed.
And there's some movement toward that even on sideband where you just type in the call sign or it, listens and tries to figure out the letters and automate that. So yeah, we're not counting that toward this, but, I know you mentioned you got a call already about the voice keyer. So you might go ahead and throw that story in.
Yeah. So, I took a call the other day, said, hey, I have my computer set up, computer logging, and that program has a voice keyer where basically you can record yourself calling CQ and, it'll do it. And he says, I have it set up for an 8-second cycle where I'll call CQ, then I'll go into receive, call CQ again. I said, is that prohibited? That's absolutely not prohibited. It's 100% allowed. I mean, that happens in contesting all the time. But when somebody comes back to that CQ, you have to manually answer that call. So somebody you can't just have the computer do it all by itself. So voice keyers are allowed. And I get a lot of calls too about people asking me whether FT8 is allowed, because there is what's called the auto sequence where you'll start calling CQ and you have to manually start that. So there's the contemporaneous or the manual initiation. So someone's actually starting that. It'll call CQ, and then when somebody answers, it'll answer it and it'll go through the sequence but that is not prohibited. The regular WSGT, FT8 mode, and FT4 modes are allowed as long as the mode can support the exchange for field day. They're allowed, and it's not considered automated contact unless you are using some other software that automates that, so that when the first QSO is done, it moves on to the next one without any user initiation at all. It just does it automatically. That's what's prohibited.
Now, you mentioned something we should probably emphasize too, although I think people are getting better at this now that they've had more experience with FT8, but you've got to support that exchange. And if you just turn on WSJT and just run plain old FT8, those are not going to count. So kind of emphasize here the exchange in that.
Right. So again, the exchange, you're exchanging your station's class and your ARRL or Radio Amateurs of Canada section, which in the normal FT8 mode, it does not do that. It's normally exchanging grid squares and a signal report. So there is a field day mode in WSJT that supports the field day. So it is built in. You just have to make sure you have that turned on. And I find that happens with a lot of other events too, like our recent international digital contest. A lot of people weren't using contest mode. They were using this standard FT8 mode, and it confuses the heck out of everybody because they're not exchanging the right information.
So make sure you've got that field day mode turned on if you're running field day. Otherwise, it's not going to count. You gotta get that exchange in. Okay. Let's see. The other one that I have here, and you'll have to correct me if I missed one. I've got one more, and that's for power output. That the power output for classes A, B, and C, have a cap now. So talk a little bit about that.
So, the last couple of years, we limited the power output to for every class, regardless of what the class was. Everything was 100 watts maximum. Well, we actually had a lot of the outlying groups out and set up remotely out in the field, especially out in like really remote places like parts of Alaska or Hawaii. They were finding that 100 watts just wasn't cutting it. They weren't really able to make it through. So for those stations, which Class A, B, and C, well, Class A and B are portable stations out in the field, and Class C is mobile. But for Class A, B, and C, we're allowing 500 watts maximum. All other classes still remain at 100 watts maximum. So that's the home stations, which would be Class D and E, and Class F EOC stations still remain at 100 watts.
Okay, so you do need to watch that power output if you are running from home or the EOC. It is just 100 watts. But 500 otherwise. Okay. Any other changes here that I missed or
Well,
subtle changes that aren't super highlighted in the rules?
Well, this is an older change that happened at the beginning of the year that does affect Field Day and other contests that support that have ARRL or Radio Amateurs of Canada sections as their exchanges. And that starting on January 1st, the Radio Amateurs of Canada had changed their sections. So they actually split up the Maritime section. So the Maritime section no longer exists anymore. So now it's Nova Scotia and New Brunswick are their own sections. And a couple of years ago, they actually split off Prince Edward Island. So be aware that there are different Canadian sections, and I would strongly recommend that if your logging software needs to be upgraded, I would absolutely upgrade it. I know a couple of the software authors have new Field Day software updates that support the new sections, and be prepared for some of those other section abbreviations to change. Like there used to be a section called Greater Toronto Area, which is now known as Golden Horseshoe. So you may hear stations still using the old abbreviation. And so I would definitely recommend going to the Field Day page and checking out the Field Day packet. There is a list of ARRL RAC sections on there that is current for this year. So I'd definitely familiarize yourself with that and make sure that you update your logging software.
Okay, and then before we go to the break, let's talk a little bit about where to find all this information for rules and how to submit those dupe sheets.
All right, so let me see here. ARRL.org/Field Day is the place to go, and there's a whole bunch of information there. So you'll look at, there's a resources and rules section, and the thing I keep pointing to is the 2023 Field Day packet that has everything you need to know about this year's Field Day. There's also some of those on that webpage. Some of those files are available separately too, so you can take a look at the summary sheet. If you want to enter by paper, there's stuff you can print out that you can mail in, but we really do recommend going to the online Field Day web app, which is field-day.arrl.org. There's a link. So it's confusing because there's two. There's arrl.org/field-day and field-day.arrl.org. But the entry form is online, and the easiest way to submit your entry is to do it online. It steps you through the whole process, and you don't have to mail anything in. So saves a lot of paper and a lot of stamps.
And saves a lot of hours for Paul Bourque in one SFE.
Well, that too. I mean, but yes, the last couple of years we've had about 99 or so % of entries on online. As you get an immediate confirmation, and if there's any part of those entries that are missing, like there's documentation for certain bonus points you have to supply. If that's missing, it will tell you, hey, we're still waiting for this document, and you can go back later and add it. And I encourage everyone, if you're submitting online, you're going to get a confirmation email. Take a good look at it, because it will tell you a lot of things. Because I have a lot of stations that will submit and they'll be missing something like the dupe sheet or a Cabrillo file, depending on how you're logging. But the dupe sheet is basically a list of call signs and stations you work sorted by band and mode. Well, we want to make sure that some effort has been attempted to make sure you don't work the same station multiple times in the same band and mode. So the dupe sheet is just really, it's not a full log. It's just a list of stations you worked on 20-meter phone, 20-meter digital, or whatever bands you worked. So really what we want to see is that there was some effort taken to prevent that you've worked the same station on the same band and mode more than one time. So a lot of stations seem to forget to upload that, and it will be like, well, I submitted an entry. How come I'm not seeing it being complete? Well, that confirmation email will tell you all the information that you need to upload to make that entry complete.
Okay, very good. So Paul Bourque, N1 SFE, is the ARRL Contest Program Manager, and he's with us once again talking about Field Day. And we're going to talk about some more Field Day stuff right after this word from ICOM America right here on Ham Talk Live. Keep your contesting edge and be a Field Day leader with ICOM. Field Day is amateur radio's most popular event and is just around the corner. On June 24th and 25th, more than 40,000 North American hams will come together to operate remotely. ICOM's robust and high-quality transceivers easily cut through pileups so you can work the bands and make those contacts. ICOM is the clear choice for DXers and contesters around the globe. The IC905 lets you explore the world of microwave. ICOM's new SHF portable, the IC905, covers 2 meters, 70 centimeters, 1.2 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, and 5.6 gigahertz bands, and 10 gigahertz with the optional transverter. There's some industry firsts under its belt as well. It's the first to support the 5 major VHF to SHF bands, the first PoE-powered RF module designed to be at the base of the antenna to eliminate signal loss and be compatible with amateur TV and analog FM mode. It has the large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, easy digital mode settings, the GPS, full D-Star functions, and an SD card slot. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. It digitizes RF before various receiver stages, reducing the generated inherent noise in different IF stages. It's the radio that changed entry-level HF. It has RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, the large color touchscreen, spectrum scope, and an SD card slot. The real HF fun starts here. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver brings direct sampling to the UHF and VHF weak signal world. It's loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy, like smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels, dual watch operation, and full duplex operation in satellite mode. Expect top performance on Field Day with ICOM's IC9700. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out faint signals in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that's changed the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. ICOM, for the love of ham radio. For more information about ICOM's amateur offerings, visit icomamerica.com/amateur.
You're listening to Ham Talk Live, the #1 podcast amongst the podcasts with the words Ham, Talk, and Live in the title. Here's your host, Neil Rapp.
We are back. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Talking to Field Day tonight with Paul Bourque, N1 SFE, and we'll resume that in just a moment. But first, it's time, once again, for the N9 GSU Joke of the Week.
Now it's time for the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week, the part of the show where Rick tells us a ham radio joke. The Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week is brought to you by QRM Labs. Now, here's Rick Garrett in N9 GSU with today's Ham Talk Live Joke of the Week.
I decided to take my friend, who had never been out of the big city, camping for an overnight Parks on the Air activation. Well, the mosquitoes were the worst I have ever seen them. We kept lathering on bug repellent, and still they came. Finally, we saw lightning bugs. My buddy says, I give up. Now they've got flashlights.
This has been the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week with Rick Garrett in N9 GSU. Tune in again next week for another joke from Rick.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Be sure to you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And tonight we are with Paul Bourque, N1 SFE. He is the ARRL Contest Program Manager, and he has the indubious role of being in charge of Field Day, which is one of the biggest events in ham radio, to be honest. And so he gets to control the chaos here as much as possible. And so part of that chaos is finding a Field Day location. So, Paul, if I want to go to Field Day, how do I figure that out?
Okay, well, several years ago, the ARRL added what's called the online Field Day Station Locator. It's at www.arrl.org/field-day-locator, and it actually will bring you up a map. You can search by location. It'll bring up a map of all the field days near you. Now, this year, there are currently, I'm looking at it right now, as of right now, there are over 1,200 field day sites in the database. So there's, you type in your location or even a call sign of a potential participant, a group that might have it's like, I know Club XYZ's call sign is this. I want to know where they're going to be. But the easiest way to do it is to type in your zip code or your location. It'll show you a bunch of field day locations near you. As a matter of fact, Neil, I'm looking near you.
All right.
I happen to be looking at
41091. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So, and again, so the map was centered around the Cincinnati area, obviously northern Kentucky. So anyway, now is your group on there? Are you doing some field day?
Yeah. So I usually do too. K4CO is in Independence, which is the one closest to me, I would believe. And then after I go there, then I run up to the Voice of America Museum at WC8VOA up on the north side of Cincinnati.
That's right. Yeah, it's usually do operate there. Anyway, so yeah. So the Field Day Locator is a great tool to use if you're new to Field Day, or maybe you haven't been to one in a while. The last few years things have been kind of not normal with COVID-19 and all that stuff. So, a couple years ago, it was pretty much Field Day was not pretty much a home event. So, there's a lot more groups operating out in the field. So, there's plenty of opportunity to find a Field Day location near you.
All right. So check out the locator, and if you're entering the address, make sure you fill that out completely.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are, one of the biggest challenges I have is that when a group or usually a club secretary or somebody delegated by a group that wants to put their field day in the locator will type in the name or type in their entry, and they won't put the full address in, and which causes the mapping location not to be able to find it. And so it ends up putting them out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean somewhere. And, well, we know that's not where the field day is. So, I know that on the Field Day Locator, if you are one of the delegates from a club entering the information, make sure you put a full address in and make sure that pin shows up on the map where it should be, at least close to where it should be. And then, the easiest way to do when you get on the Field Day Locator, if you have an ARRL.org website account and you're logged in, it will default to your location that ARRL has for your address. So it's nice because when I start up mine, it comes up with my my area.
Okay, so if you haven't submitted your Field Day location, make sure you do that so people can find out where Field Day is being operated this weekend. When people are submitting the forms and submitting the reports and the dupe sheets and everything, Paul, what are some of the common mistakes that people can look for to save you some headaches?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is that certain bonus points, if you're claiming certain bonus points require some sort of documentation, and that could be a photo of your educational activity, or some require documentation, or like you copied the W1AW bulletin. That's another one. If you're going to claim that bonus points, we want to see something that shows that you actually copied a bulletin. We're not looking for perfect copy. A lot of people think it's like a code proficiency test if they're copying on CW. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to show that you actually copied the W1AW message from W1AW. And one of the biggest things is bonus point proofs. We call them proofs, to make sure that you have uploaded something. And one of the biggest challenges we have is if the files are really big, like file size. A lot of big files tends to not work really well. So try to keep your file sizes down. I think we want to see something under, like 3-4 megabyte a document. And if you have a lot of big documents to upload, I recommend doing them in several sessions where you will upload one document, upload another one. Because if you try to do too many of them, the site does not accept it. And so just be aware of the file sizes of the documents. We just really need something to be legible. And it doesn't need to be, high resolution or anything, but it's got to be something legible or something that we can read and prove that you had proof of a bonus point that you're claiming.
All right. Well, Paul, I think that's everything. Anything that you can think of that people should be aware of preparing for Field Day?
Yes. So Field Day, of course, is the fourth weekend of June. So that's this coming weekend. Starts at 1800 UTC Saturday. And some groups who choose to who don't choose to start setting up until 1800 can actually operate until 2100 UTC on Sunday. And so that's the Field Day period. There is a 30 days or a month, 30 days from the event is when the entries are due. So you have until the end of July. And so just, hopefully you get out there and have fun and, make sure you get those entries in. Again, go to www.arrl.org/field-day for all the info. And again, if you have any other questions, you can always just shoot me an email over at the contest branch at contests.arrl.org or fdinfo at arrl.org.
Okay, well, that's how you can get a hold of Paul Bourque, N1SFE at ARRL. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and talking a little bit about Field Day, and hope to catch you on the air soon.
All right, Neil, thanks for having me. Great being on the show again.
All right, well, good luck, everyone, with your Field Day activities, and hope you can get out and enjoy those this weekend. But that is a wrap for this edition of Ham Talk Live. I'd like to thank my guest, Paul Bourque, N1SFE, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening, and invite you back next time. And for a list of our upcoming guests, go to hamtalklive.com. So for now, this is Neil Rapp saying 7-3-7-5, and may the good DX be yours.
For 73s to you and your family, I'll be seeing you further down the road. Your 73s to you and your family, I'll be seeing you further down the road.